Joining us now via Skype, our London correspondent, Jonathan Sacerdoti. How are you, Jonathan?
Good, thanks. Good to be with you.
So, can you please update us on the Brexit UK referendum situation?
So we now have this warning from the IMF and also plenty of others, including the government, who spent around £9 million sending this leaflet to all British homes. And that itself has caused a lot of controversy because the leaflet explains what the government call the reasons for voting to remain in the European Union as the best decision for the UK. Those in the Leave camp say that this is a huge misuse of money in order to swing things the way the government want. Of course, the Exit campaign can't spend that money at this stage, and they can't afford to send leaflets to every home in this way. So there seems to be a split already in how this is being campaigned about and whether or not it's fair for the government to be taking this position and sending it into all homes.
Would you dare assess where does the British public stand?
The British public, in most polling, just marginally seems to want to remain in the EU. But this can be swung by all manner of things, and that's why this particular referendum is going to be very interesting to watch. The 23rd of June will be an interesting day, because in a way it will depend on what's happened in the weeks running up to it. Take, for example, those attacks in Brussels. Had something like that happened later on, much nearer to the referendum date, then that itself could swing people's opinion, perhaps in terms of security, one way or the other, with people on either side of the debate arguing that Europe can either make Britain safer against terrorism because of the joined-up intelligence that can take place across Europe, and others arguing that in fact it makes Europe more dangerous because of the increased burden of immigration into the UK. That's just one example of how what's going on around the world can swing this debate when polls show that people are pretty much 50-50, perhaps with a slight leaning towards remaining in for the moment on this issue.
Right. And the IMF's warnings, how is that seen in the UK?
Again, many of the arguments on either side are being labelled as scaremongering by the other side, especially when it comes to the economy. For some people, this is something that they're going to be voting on emotionally, whether or not they emotionally feel that this is a good idea or a bad idea for Britain to remain in Europe. So when the IMF gets involved, people will say that this is concrete evidence from economists who know what they're talking about that we should remain inside the EU. But of course there are arguments on the other side with different models which show the strength of leaving the EU. What is certain is that leaving the EU would cause a certain amount of instability and uncertainty, both words that politicians and leaders don't like in projections for the future.
Yeah, not one bit.
It's a question of how quickly one could get through those.
I see. Jonathan Sacerdoti in London, thank you so much.